My best friend was experiencing constant failures, which led to an increase in his envy and desire to take my girlfriend away from me. From our 18 years old, Alex 28M and I 29M have been great buddies. We connected over our shared desire of the same professional path. While Alex's career has not been off, mine has finally been launching for the last 2 years, after years of struggle and many rejections. This last year, I have devoted so much time trying to support him. From ages 22 to 25, we even lived together as housemates, sharing everything. But around 8 months ago, his attitude toward me altered. Starting to make me the butt of his jokes, he said disparaging and insulting things. I blew it off, somewhat of a happy-go-lucky kind of person, assuming he was just a bit envious and struggling. I could see his predicament. I understand with loads of rejections, and seeing your buddy unexpectedly achieve the success you have always dreamt of, it is a difficult atmosphere to want to work in. Next is my ex-girlfriend Megan, 28F for 6. 5 years. I felt our relationship was just right. We had a wonderful sex life, terrific communication, and she supported me through all those tough years while I worked to advance in this line of work. I like to chat to her about everything, and am also a major oversharer. We were always honest, we had no secrets, hence, I reasoned. Once or twice a week, I would attempt to keep the relationship interesting and entertaining by surprise her with presents and excursions, trying new things together like culinary courses and dancing lessons. I just liked spending time with her, engaging in her interests, and ensuring she understood she was the first person in my life. From her, I felt the same even as my career took off. I made careful not to give her any less priority, or any of my friends any either, as I need a decent work-life balance to be content. Last weekend, we were all at Steve and Hannah S. place, 29M and 28F. They had just purchased the house. Sitting in their yard, we were drinking beside Jake 28M and Emma 29F. Since we had been a close-knit group for 9 years, we were all drinking and Alex became rather intoxicated really fast. He was jabbing me all night, saying things that after 8 months ultimately drove me over the brink. Having had enough, I called him out and into an argument. I finally said that I assumed his actions sprang from jealousy over my recent success, and it wasn't my fault he lacked the ability to make it. I also listed all the steps I had taken to provide him chances as well. And then he just lost it and assaulted me. We pushed one another a little, then he knocked me down and kicked me in the ribs a few times. Then he aimed a pound on my skull. Fortunately, he didn't strike me squarely. Though it was hard enough that my face is still sore, I felt the sole of his foot strike my cheek and slide off. He attempted it once again, but I moved and merely saw his heel hit just inches from my face. Should he have fallen on my head, he may have cracked my skull or worse killed me. The other males then crept between us. Rising, I shouted, wondering if he was insane. He seemed to be going off, but then he grabbed a wooden plank Steve and Hannah were rebuilding the barrier and swinging it at my head once again. I kind of dodged and raised my hand so he could very forcefully strike my elbow. Once again, he almost murdered me twice in a matter of seconds. All hell broke out as he almost swung Emma as well. Just seeing red from what transpired, Steve and Jake attacked him and thrashed him really seriously. The girls got them off Alex and kind of understood what they had done. At this time, we were all in shock, and it was just emotional anarchy. Alex sat up, Megan sat with him. Though he had plenty of blood on his face, he did not pass out. Hannah ended up getting back in the morning after taking Alex to the hospital. Alex left him off at her parents' place with a fractured nose and a minor concussion. Alex, she stated, did not even apologize, explain himself, or actually interact with her. None of us really slept that night, honestly. After that, I find things a little hazy, most likely a combination of booze, shock, and adrenaline. Though things grew worse, this was the worst night of my life. You may have seen that I have not mentioned Megan for some time. Sitting around, Steve muttered something like Alex deserved more than a broken nose for attempting to murder me twice and almost harming Emma. Then Megan, who had been silent, shot and defended Alex, claiming he was only having a difficult time and he deserved none of this. Before Megan fled, Steve and Megan almost found themselves in a shouting fight. Thinking we were all in shock and sleep exhausted, I followed her and intended to console her. She was sobbing in the guest room. I told her I knew we were in shock and that we should just aim to get some sleep. She hardly turned to look at me. Not once, but rather suddenly, I remembered Alex and Megan were seated next to one another the previous evening. Alex was yelling at me, and Megan was at his side, pulling at his arm and begging him to go with her and cool down, not to me, but to Alex. Her focus was focused on soothing Alex down as I lay there in agony, even after he kicked me, stomped on me, and swung a board at me. She neglected to check on me throughout the men thrashing Alex. She was attempting to get them off him while yelling wildly. Not even do I recall her asking me once whether I was good all night. So I questioned her, "Are you seeing Alex in order to cheat on me?" She had just began weeping uncontrollably and reiterated that she never meant for things to go this far. I just lost it. I found my solution. Starting to shout at her, I asked her what was going on and how she could be doing this. When the others arrived, the men escorted me to another room where they sought to cool me down. Apparently anxious about Megan, Emma and Hannah ended up transporting her to her parents' home and remained with her. She sobbed so hard in the vehicle that she cannot talk. Emma and Megan's dad had to assist her up the stairs and into bed when they arrived to her parents' home, as she could hardly stand up and was just hysterical. They said she had only managed to exclaim or shout that she had wrecked everything. Emma remained then, as her parents had never seen her like this, and were scared ill. Emma and Hannah informed them what had transpired with Alex and me, and it seemed to result from Alex and Megan's affair. 7 days then went by. I was simply so furious and perplexed, in great mental and bodily suffering. My elbow broke, I had some injured ribs, and the right side of my face swelled. My brain kept playing the evening over and again. When I texted Megan for an explanation, she did not reply. Then this morning, my ex-mother-in-law called. Excellent folks. My ex-in-laws have always been kind to me and have supported me through much over the years. She was very forgiving to her daughter and rather contrite. Then Megan said she wanted to see me and chat, and if I could come over, I agreed. When I got there, they stated they would leave the premises and wait in their vehicle to give us room, but due to the condition, Megan they did not want to go. When I came in and saw Megan, it was an emotional roller coaster angst and resentment. I then wanted to embrace her and started to feel bad for her. She looked terrible, like a mental patient, like she hadn't eaten, washed, or slept since that evening. Seeing her like that made me sick, so I had to stop myself from rushing over and scooping her into my arms. I just simply sat down facing her. She said I could ask her anything and she would be honest. She continued saying she was sorry she had destroyed everyone's lives. Though this is lengthy enough, I wanted to go too deeply, as Alex revealed his love for Megan a year ago and has been very relentless since then. She stated she made it plain it wasn't reciprocal. Why she hadn't come to see me, I asked. She stated she wanted things fixed, and she didn't want to sour our friendship. Over the last 10 months, he had become increasingly hostile and begged her to leave me for him. I inquired as to if anything had transpired. She stated they kissed twice. Alex started each time, but she stopped her. Once curled over a movie, Alex sought to start a sexual relationship before leaving with well-defined limits. If he was always attempting to kiss her and entice her into bed, I questioned her why she continued seeing him alone. He always vowed not to do it again, she added. I questioned her why she continued seeing him, giving him false hope, not cutting touch, and dragging him on if she loved his attention. She answered his DMs. She then stated the most unusual thing: she felt awful for him, felt guilty for him, felt protective of him, like she was his big sister WTF, and she wanted to help him get over her. She even arranged for him to go on a date with a friend, which he undermined by acting rudely to the girl. I questioned her if she was lying or whether she was naive. She gave him all her time, thereby keeping his hope and crush for her alive. She began to weep and doubled down on wanting to mend things and have a sister-brother connection with him. She wanted to assist him in getting back on his feet, as she felt he was just struggling. But he continued to be more tenacious and began disparaging me, claiming I did not deserve her. She claimed to be plain dumb, to regret everything, and to have wrecked everything. She handled everything in the worst conceivable manner, but she did it in good faith, not knowing she was only aggravating matters. She paused uncomfortably, then started to bawl her eyes out and said yes when I asked whether she had contacted him since that night. That utterly devastated me, wrecked me. I waited 7 days for her to respond, only to have her mother contact me on her behalf. This guy had tried for more than a year to get with her, had attempted to murder me. She was messaging him, and meanwhile, I didn't know how to respond. I decided to simply get up and go because I felt like hurting her, not physically but mentally. Saying she only checked to see whether he was all right, she begged to show me the messages. Her informing him it was finished and to cease getting in touch with her came next. But I made her decision. These final 7 days, I was in the greatest agony of my life. She still decided to keep talking to him while I was on my own. She followed me as I left, begging. I am not proud of this, but I lost it when her parents came out of the vehicle to inquire if everything was all right. I screamed that their wretched daughter had chosen the guy who attempted to stomp on my face over me and had destroyed my life. So I began walking away as I was so enraged and unable to drive. Though I am not sure how long I was walking, my father-in-law drove next to me, advised me to get in, which I followed, anticipating him to shout at me or chastise me. But bless his heart, he only drove me home. We hardly spoke all along, but he rested his hand on my shoulder as he parked outside my house. After what I told them, I could even look him in the eye. That she merely checked whether he was all right, and then stated she couldn't have him in her life, that she would never forgive him for hitting me, appeared to confirm what Megan did text me. She also supplied additional screenshots of their earlier conversations, largely of her urging him to stop, that she lacked emotions for him, and of her turning down his approaches. But given their more than a year of communication, I suppose she could choose highlight passages that suited her and omit other portions of the letters. Though I haven't answered yet and I never will, I find it difficult to block her. For some reason I just cannot yet. I am here now, simply releasing all this from me. Simply said, I feel terrible, furious, and deceived. To cause Megan and Alex to experience the suffering I am going through, I want to inflict emotional rather than physical harm, and I know that's not a healthy way to feel or a healthy thing to do. So even if no one sees it, perhaps just writing this out will help me start to comprehend what the heck has happened, how my life went from feeling great to feeling like I will never feel good again. This suffering seems like it will never go away. How on earth is one to recover from this? I seem to have lost everything. I feel only hate right now. The people I used to love with all my heart now make me hate. Megan said she didn't cheat or have sex with him, which I find dubious since I am not naive. She deceived me on so many ways even without sex, as did Alex. I never see myself forgiving them ever. I never feel like I will ever reach the point where I would even be inclined to attempt. What then is my next action for everyone who has ever experienced a betrayal like this, from friends or lovers or both? How do I start the process of just stopping myself from obsessing over this and beginning to enjoy my life once more? Update, I sort of need guidance again, or just comfort on what to do. Hence, I hadn't felt the need to post until lately. I will attempt since so many have requested for an update on the entire matter, however. Entering too many specifics will make this way too lengthy. I need help with the scenario found in the lowest paragraphs. Sorry this is somewhat lengthy once again. Though I didn't even want to, when I first began writing, I just felt the desire to clear everything on my thoughts. Everyone advised Alex to file charges. Maybe many of you are Americans who have seen too many TV episodes about attorneys or have too much faith in the legal system. At least not in my nation, it does not operate that way. After speaking with 2 lawyers, I was able to file charges. However, going to prison is very rare. He very certainly needs to pay for the trial and give me a settlement. Based on the damage, it might be a little or a hefty charge. Although my companions might attest to the seriousness of his attack, the court would most certainly decide solely on the harm done. He could receive probation rather than prison. Yes, I could maybe wreck him financially, but then he could pursue charges against Steve and Jake, and there's a greater chance they would finish up worse from that than Alex from because they broke his nose and caused a concussion. He might present as having long-lasting physical problems from it with a great attorney. Therefore, this could become months to years of dealing with this, and I just want this done with. His reputation has deteriorated. He lost some friends. Some said they would remain impartial. According to his elder brother, he and his parents voiced their dismay in him, but they are not disowning him. But his younger sister struggled quite a bit. She used to joke that, at Alex's expense, she believed me to be her elder brother, lighthearted jokes, not nasty. She also glanced up Megan and took it hard she has not spoken to Alex. He did write me a lengthy apologetic letter, but he only addressed his actions against me during the attack. Megan was not mentioned. Though not emotionally strong, it was honest. Though he possessed a lot, he blamed others for his mental health issues. I won the tea and Haven T reacted. After I said that some of you warned me Alex could have been abusive to Megan, that you might know more than you let on, or were supporting her, some of you responded. I kind of went stupid talking about how surprised I was I missed the indications. If they noticed the indicators, yes, they knew about Alex kissing Megan, but said they didn't know the degree of it, only that Alex and Megan were spending time together, and Megan informed them he kissed her, but handled the matter. Given Emma seemed somewhat defensive when I asked her more about this, I didn't truly think it was the only thing they knew. That set off a chain reaction, as Steve became enraged at her for hiding it, and questioned what else she may not be sharing with him. In his opinion, what else could she keep hidden if she could maintain one like that? That resulted in some tension in their marriage. I instructed Steve not to become angry at her on my behalf. I am not involved in it. Hannah did to my house and want to chat. She said she honestly didn't know, kind of stumbled upon the kissing talk. Later, Emma and Megan minimized it. Emma answered Megan had experienced when asked. She swore she grabbed it as if she had told me and knew just that was happening. And I do believe her. Unlike Emma, she appeared very sincere and contrite. I simply have no desire in being around Emma, so I have kind of been no contact with her past 10 weeks, even though I do not dislike Emma or resent her. This has somewhat damaged my relationship with Steve, as I have been hanging out with other individuals rather. Megan. Where should I start? Many of you said go no contact, but I know myself it would have drove me crazy not being able to get everything off my chest and find some type of finality to what the heck occurred. Though I intended to do that after seeing her once more, one individual messaged me stating he was taught to address his issues in person, and it connected more with me than going no contact. Since my vehicle was still at their house, I also had to fetch it and apologies to her parents. 6 days after that encounter, I phoned them, asked if I might see them, and inquired about whether they would allow me speak with Megan once again. They appeared to be relieved, really. Part of me wonders if they assumed I intended to pardon her or anything else. I so went there. We spoke. I turned around and said sorry. Although they expressed disappointment and amazement at my screaming such nasty words, they knew I was in a horrible place and going through a lot of emotions. We embraced thereafter. They then left once again, and I entered the living room where Megan waited for me. She requested for a hug, but I said no and invited her to sit down to chat. Her expression was the saddest I had ever seen. As Emma and Hannah suggested, I asked her to tell me everything once again, and if he exhibited any kind of abuse. She added some but presented the same version as last time. She said she only believed this scenario was her obligation to repair at the time, but the reason she couldn't do it or come honest was Alex. She stated she didn't fully comprehend then. He threatened her with telling me personally that she was cheating on me, that they kissed, that they were in love. She would harm our connection and the friendship between Alex, he claimed, when she attempted to break off contact with him, that I would trust him rather than her. She so found herself imprisoned in handling this on her own. I inquired about his physical abuse level. She kind of hesitated and replied not really, but on 3 times he did injure her, not severely, but more to the point of discomfort. He got her alone once at an event we were all at together and questioned her if she really loved him. She yelled no, and to not do this there, attempted to leave, but he grabbed her wrist and wouldn't let go, forcing her closer to him and bruising her wrist. I recall that night Megan grew silent and inattentive, but assured me she was merely tired midway through. The second time was similar, but they were alone. He grabbed her bicep and squeezed, and she suffered bruises, although I do not recall any on her. I would have seen and inquired about them, maybe she kept them hidden. I also questioned whether it really wasn't sexual, that his motives were clear, and why she continued placing herself in that situation. She only stated she was ignorant, acting foolish, but they never had sex. I also questioned why he had so much influence over her that she, over a year, lacked the will to just tell me why she felt I would trust his comments over hers. She claimed once again that she just kept making errors and lacked knowledge. I questioned her why she turned from me after Alex's assault rather than him. She began weeping and continued saying she didn't know why, she just thought our love was stronger than that, and we would bounce back, and she was concerned about what Alex would do. She was too preoccupied thinking about him rather than with me. Thus, that was the reason I suffered the most. She chose him, in my opinion. She claimed not to have chosen him, but I insisted on the fact that felt like that. Then I told her and him how badly they had damaged me, all the trust had been lost, and we were done. I would avoid any contact with them. She questioned if there was any chance for us to be in each other's life once again in the future, and I responded without a doubt no. But eating me away, because I had so many questions about her narrative, I contacted Rachel, 29F, Megan's closest friend, and told her I felt like nobody around me was speaking the truth. I pleaded with her to just be truthful. She replied surprisingly. She seemed to be rather knowledgeable, but Megan kept her out of current with many things. She urged Megan to cease chatting to Alex and report his actions. She knew about him. She was the one who prevented things from going further because she knew about their kissing and Megan regretted it. Initially, Megan felt validated, she told me. She also sensed that dynamic absent when my career got off steam. Then Alex was in the same situation I was in, and she could help him and get that validation once again. I was only confused. Rachel said she was too when she told her. Whether the sexual desire from Alex validated her, I wondered. Rachel said Megan never really discussed, but being a female herself and knowing Megan for 22 years, she thought that was part of it too. Then I questioned, as I had been dreading, if I may have been deluded about being a wonderful boyfriend, that is, whether I might have done anything to lead her into Alex's arms. If she had ever spoken poorly of me, maybe. To the point Rachel was nearly envious on a few times. Megan always sounded very much in love, and frequently spoke about how happy she was, how I made her feel unique. Not really, Rachel responded. Though never anything worse than that, Megan did call me pushy, clinging, and said I would sometimes shut down and be selfish. Since then, I kind of feel Rachel has been flirting with me. She messages me every day at first, just stuff like how my day was or how I was feeling, then memes that are kind of sexual. I will have to close it, however, as I have no interest in anything with her. I am just trying to come to grips with all of this and move on, as I do not want her thinking I am guiding her on. Then around 12 days back, I received an SMS from Megan. On all the applications and on social media, I had banned her. We constantly spoke via them, but we seldom used our phone numbers, so it either slipped my memory or maybe unconsciously. Simply said, "How have you been?" Followed by her stating she smiled and laughed again for the first time because of me, and a picture of me on her TV, expressing how proud she is of me and how she looks forward to watch my profession improve. My line of employment is entertainment. My major break 2 years ago was working behind the scenes, which developed into front-of-camera performance. Though increasing in viewership and popularity since we started, I am by no means well known, just a little show not on the major network or anything. I answered incorrectly, and we spoke for 3 days not about us, but rather about some national political concerns. I stayed in my distance still. Should she text, I just waited until I felt ready to respond or complete what I had started. She then asked if only in a little capacity in the future, I might find it in my heart to allow her back into my life. I said I needed more time, but that seemed improbable. Said goodbye. I told her I couldn't keep doing this for my mental health. Blocked her once again. Though I thought this was finished, last Saturday night at midnight, I had a knock on my door, and lo and behold, Megan was soaked in the rain, like some ridiculous scene in a movie. What the devil she was doing here, I wondered. She said she was out drinking and wanted to meet me, but got cold feet as soon as she exited the cab and waited by the road for 12 minutes and was too chilly to wait for another taxi. I welcomed her in, handed her some old sweatpants, a t-shirt, and a sweatshirt of mine, and gave her a bag to hold her damp clothing in. Her pals peer-pressured her to go on a ladies' night out, but she felt unprepared but went anyhow. They were drinking, and she grabbed her favorite cocktail, one we used to have together. The fancier, the better. When we went out on our own, we had this thing wherein we would contact each other all night with amusing things that occurred, inside jokes about circumstances, or simply share pictures of our drinks. We were that disruptive couple, always on our phones, chatting while apart. She also went for her phone to email me a picture, but she knew she could never do that again, and became depressed. She drank some more, then subsequently, she told her pals she didn't want to meet or chat with males. They brought several guys around. Said one of them Megan was single, and he began flirting and attempting to grab her interest. She had enough when her buddies continued to create circumstances and left her alone together. She also informed me the man was unattractive, pitiful, dull, and depressing. This leads me to this point, as Megan seldom speaks like way about anyone. I know sober Megan, tipsy drunk Megan, and drunk drained Megan. She seemed to be in the tipsy drunk condition, although typically she is rather bouncy and giggly. Unlike when I met her earlier, when she looked at me with such grief and remorse, she was now totally cold and detached, never looked at me in the eye. She almost spoke in a monotone. Never have I seen Megan as she was. My thoughts went sort of blank. I was weary and just really weirded out. She just sat there silent at that point. I thought, screw this, and offered to take her home, as I didn't think her staying over was a smart idea, and believed that was her goal, and got on the taxi app and called another cab. But after 20 minutes, the app stated it was still looking for a car. She merely gathered her stuff and left without any general protest or comment, as I was calling her bluff. The attitude in the automobile remained somewhat strange. She requested selection of the music. Indeed. She begged to hold my hand while we made one final trip. Stupid me said yes. She then just sat there staring out the window, never turned to face me. This type of approach disarmed me. My thoughts became empty. To try to lighten the situation, however, I joked about taking her back to her pals, and maybe looking for that poor man still there. She only shrugged, declared she was done with men permanently. All they did was exploit her trust, control her emotions and goodwill, and place her in lose-lose circumstances. I'm not certain if it was a shot at me, Alex, or both. She shrugged once again and replied, seriously, when I questioned her why she said that. She also told me Alex wrote her a letter inviting her to go with him to another nation, but she tossed it away. We then just drove in quiet. I felt her hold my hand as we walked toward her parents' house, as if she wasn't ready to let go. She said nothing as I stopped the vehicle, just stepped out without even glancing at me and entered. Of course, I discovered her underwear in my bathroom when I returned home, but in a spot next to the washing basket that items would regularly fall into. Of course, common sense dictates that she left them on intent. She understands that where garments sometimes fall, but they do fall there, so naturally, another item for me to obsess over and question. She has my clothing, and I have her undergarments, so there is a motive to visit each other once again. Still, I was really perplexed and a bit afraid about Megan in this position. She was unlike herself, hence I have even been wondering if she was doing drugs that night. I'm even wondering if I should question Rachel about it, but I shouldn't put her in that situation and drag Alex on her. I was also unblocked Megan on everything because I honestly assumed she would reach out with an apology for coming up drunk at my house the old Megan would have. She also modified her Instagram a lot. She eliminated almost every image she had and updated her bio. She used to have a quite weird and charming feed, except one of us together from a vacation from 3 years ago that we both proclaimed as the most enjoyable moment in our life. She has 3 old pictures remaining, removed any pictures with other people in them. Though I believed I was only making little progress, I can just stop thinking about her now. Actually, however, I truly miss Megan quite a bit. She is really one of a kind individual. As much as I have despised her and disliked her over the last 3 weeks, I hate seeing her like this. I have always known how blessed I have been having her in my life. Remembering her tears at her parents' home helps me. Thinking about her suffering from her choices and ruining her life with Alex made me feel happy or pleased. She earned it, in my opinion, for causing so much pain. I simply worry I feel some animosity now as well, but I am more worried about her now. Admitting when she gripped my hand in the vehicle, I felt butterflies in my stomach and thought back on our time together. I start to become anxious then. For her whole life, I want her not to self-destruct or experience remorse or shame. We are simply human, we err. Given Alex's abuse, I would wish to pursue charges to punish him for what he did to Megan, and that she felt caught in handling this herself because to his threats and fear of losing everything. Again, however, she did soothe him rather than me when things became tight. I find myself circling back constantly. Her arriving up wet, abandoning her undergarments, and behaving so strange on Saturday seemed to be rather manipulative. Then, for a few minutes, I feel as if my only concern is having her back in my life once again rather than anything else. Even if it means me lying or downplaying something, I'm thinking in circles go no contact and try to be strong, Reach out to her. Have an honest, all-on-the-table conversation. Maybe try to work on things and see if we can move forward, or just be the bigger man and meet her and end things in a way that, in some way, releases her of her guilt, so she won't beat herself down about this or regret her whole life. I can therefore at least stop obsessing over her. As you can see, fellow Redditors, I am quite extremely bewildered and ignorant right now, and I am hoping, like last time, someone would come along with advice that will assist me find the proper route ahead.